On this episode of That Kingsville Podcast, we talk about the new EMS station opening in Kingsville. Yeah, that was dedicated and open. And then we've got the Fantasy of Lights Parade, November 18th, 5 o'clock. We're hosting, again, third year in a row. Join us, 5 p.m. for Kevin, nice and early. He's not here this episode, but he'll be back next time. You know, I know you're looking at the gap between. And then, special guest to the podcast, Town of Kingsville Mayor Dennis Rogers joins us, because guess what's back in the news? 183 Main, folks. We talk 183 Main Street development, and then lighting bylaw with the mayor. Join us on this episode of That Kingsville Podcast. That Kingsville Podcast, proudly supported by Kingsville Brewery and Tap House 127 by Kingsville Brewery. You are invited. Attention guys and ghouls around, join Tap House 127 for a night of Halloween fun Saturday, October 28th, 5 p.m. to 11. What's on the agenda, you might ask, Steve?
What's on the agenda, Dave?
They've got a costume contest. All purchases will receive a ballot for your chance to win a case of beer of your choice. The featured drink for the evening, pumpkin espresso martini, and live music from Gen Night Music starting at 7:30 p.m. Stop by and join in on all the spooky fun. 15 Main Street, West Kingsville. Thank you, Tap House 127 Kingsville Brewery, for supporting That Kingsville Podcast. Welcome to That Kingsville Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Hunt. Steve Anson with us today. Kevin Black, unfortunately, has obligations he's got to attend to unexpectedly, so we're missing Kevin. Or are we really missing Kevin?
We're missing Kevin.
We're missing Kevin.
Someone's got to cut me off.
Sorry to cut you off. I am sorry.
There we go. I was waiting for the sound. I knew there'd be a sound.
Thanks, Gary.
Nah, he's got real life issues.
Yeah.
None of this fun stuff for him.
No. He did send his regrets, but next episode he'll be back, I'm sure. So, but yeah, here we are. It's fall. We had the Migration Fest parade, and
It's 2 months till Christmas Day.
golly, Steve.
Oh, whatever. It's only 6 days till Halloween. Let's get through that first.
Exactly. And then American Thanksgiving's kind of like that unofficial start.
Yes.
At least it's always been that way for me. So
No, I don't disagree. I kind of feel the same.
Yeah.
Hopefully the Lions can beat the Packers and we can
celebrate.
start the holiday season off correctly.
So for years, it's actually been worthwhile to have endured 30 some odd years of just pain and torture being a Lions fan to finally have some sort of product that's worth cheering for.
Sure, we won't worry about Sunday. Let's hope that's just a small blip in the.
Can't win them all. Can't win them all.
And they needed that, I think.
But speaking of on the weekend, like I said, it was the Migration Fest weekend, so the paint out, a lot of winners, a lot of good things that I've heard come out of that event. Jody Rafool played on the opening night on was it the Friday? So down at the Grovedale. So yeah, heard lots of really good things about that event. And the next one would be the Fantasy of Lights and the Santa Claus Parade. And conveniently, for the third year in a row, we will be the MCs for the parade. So it's November 18th at 5 p.m. So Kevin, it's earlier this year again, so he can make it and not complain. He would prefer it at 1 p.m., but hey, happy medium, 5 p.m.
Still enjoy the lights.
Yeah, the theme this year is Christmas magic. So let's see if there's some magicians and creating presents out of thin air and whatnot. They're still looking for people who want to enter the parade. There's a form at kingsville.ca. You can go on the town website and register to be in the parade or volunteer. I know that there's a need for volunteers to help with this event. So if you're interested, on the 18th of November, join us downtown, right in the middle of town. We'll be up on the second balcony at the Grove Hotel.
We shouldn't tell people that. Then we start hurling stuff.
Yeah, but what, rude comments?
Tomatoes. Who knows?
Tomatoes, frozen tomatoes. Well, let's hope it wasn't as cold as it was last year or the year before. It was pretty chilly.
It was bitter.
It was bitter chilly, but yeah. Again, we're very happy to help out the event and do the announcing. So we be the Three Musketeers with Gary on the balcony. So. But there were some other things that were happening in town, and in a few minutes we'll be including the mayor of Kingsville for commentary. Oh, no, I forgot. Sorry, my notes are backwards.
It's all right.
Yeah, we'll get to the mayor. He's coming up in about 10 minutes. There was a big dedication in town on Road 2 for the new EMS station depot.
They can't get out of it, but
the road's still shut down for repairs.
Truthfully, though, go on.
Yeah, big accomplishment. That was a dire need for the town of Kingsville in order to facilitate our growing community. Still do only have one ambulance, as that was what the current state was for our area, but we've future-proofed that facility in order to add more capacity as we continue to grow.
And to their credit, the County of Essex has done a great job establishing new bases across the county. I know Amherstburg got one a few years ago. I think Lakeshore did I know on Renault Line right by the Atlas Tube Center.
Yep.
And a few other Leamington.
Got one, yeah.
I anyway, I like to think we were due.
We were,
but by the same token, it's a huge asset for the town to have, and provides again the space for future growth. Yeah,
let's just hope that Road 2 opens up finally for the year that it's been closed. 2 years it's been under.
It's been we joke about the length of time it's taken, but we do recognize too that the enormity of the project.
Yeah.
And the significance of the project. But once it's done, there's nice curb and gutters now. And, it is close, I think. I hope.
Yeah, I think there was an announcement that within the next month it should be wrapped up. We'll see. We're now getting back into the temperature issues where they'll be shutting down all the tarmac production again.
I like using the multi-use path. I've been cycling on it. It's sweet.
Yeah, actually, that is kind of very convenient. Now we'll be able to get into Ruthven almost the whole way under a nice multi-use path, which, the active transportation system and CWATs that we have throughout the community, it's just another good addition in order to facilitate and not put people at risk. Because, as a kid riding your bike up Road 2, a little sketchy. But, yeah. There's another great thing that's happening in Kingsville. But as I was alluding to, and like again, I apologize, my notes are backwards. 183 Main back in the news again, folks.
We thought we were done. So there was a zoning change proposal to the address that was put in front of town council on this past Monday, which was October 23rd. Is today the 23rd? No, today's the 25th.
25th. Yeah, it's 23rd. Thank you. Time, it flies. End of October. So we figured, with what that outcome was at the town council meeting, why not invite our mayor, Dennis Rogers, back on the show to provide commentary. So let's get Dennis on the show. And joining us on That Kingsville Podcast, Mayor of the town of Kingsville, Dennis Rogers, joins us now. Thanks for coming on the show yet again, Dennis.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. How are you?
Oh, we're fine. How are you?
Yeah, good. We're busy time.
Absolutely.
We're getting closer to strat planning, which is exciting. So I think it was yesterday the part of the public engagement kind of went out. So we're excited about that. And, again, just excited. I've been talking about this forever since the election. It was one of the main things I was pushing, and just for us putting together a plan that, extends beyond our 4 years and, something just that resilient, sustainable community, far into the future. So it's exciting times.
We're talking 2040, right? That's what you've been touting. 2040.
Yes, sir.
Kingsville
2040. Yes, sir.
So you guys have had, a lot of big decisions that have come up in council in the past month or two. First being with what the Main Street Development Committee decided, those recommendations, and then ultimately what council decided. So can you take us through a little bit of what was decided and why?
Yeah, so for the Main Street, there was 3 corridors that we were looking at. One is, the Main Street core, which is, the 4 churches. So recommendation for that was, 2 to 3 stories, which, council was good with. The first one we kind of made some changes is the Main Street neighborhoods. So that's when you extend beyond, the 4 churches. So you'll go, out to Prince Albert on the west side, and then you'll go out to Jasperson on the east side. So recommendation was, up to 6 stories. And there's a lot of debate on this one, kind of going back and forth. And at the end of the day, council decided to kind of find a compromise and live within that 4-story range. But so the third category or sector, I should say, was the gateways. So one on the east side would be where Jasperson is, and then on the west side would be, around where the beer store, where the potential West Side Collector Road would be. So what we decided was on the east side was to keep it at 4 stories. There were some concerns, just on traffic in the new school and you name it. So that's kind of where it landed there. But, some mixed use stuff, right, which is exciting. So commercial on the bottom, residential above. And then we stuck with the recommendation for 6 stories on the west side. So there was lots of conversations and lots of questions asked. And, I think administration did a really good job as far as explaining it. And, council, to me, at the end of the day, I think we found a pretty good compromise. I'm told a good compromise is when everybody's a little bit unhappy, and I think that's what happened. But the end of the day is that's where we landed, and I support the decision we made.
So, with taking a slight segue from that, with the 2 school properties, the Kingsville High School and Kingsville Public School, lying within that region, is now the time when council starts focusing on the future utilization for those properties?
Yeah, exactly. So that's part of the strategic planning that we're doing right now. Just really establishing, the school properties, what we want to do with them, a timeline for it. I can tell you that, this Bill 98, Better Student Outcomes Bill, is, when the Premier was in town, I spoke to him specifically about that and our municipality being able to get these properties, for $1 or a lesser amount. I told him I don't think it's fair that, our residents have to, really pay for it twice. So, because our goal is, to use it within housing some factor as well as, other municipal needs. So the goal for us is to delegate at AMO next summer to the Ministry of Education. And then, try to, again, at the end of the day, the most important thing is for us to kind of control what goes there. But yeah, starting those conversations now, have some decisions with strategic planning as far as direction, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, it may temper some frustration with some of the town folk if there's more of the picture that's painted with regards to the future of Kingsville.
For sure, and I mean that's the thing too is we don't really know, right? Like we don't know if the province or the ministry is going to allow us to do that, right? We don't know if we're going to be able to afford it, right? We don't know a lot of things, but one thing I can tell you is to me, speaking for myself, subject to council approval, of course, but to me is. If it was up to me to flip a switch, we buy them both and we figure out any way that we can. Because at the end of the day, is we could always sell them back to a developer, get our money back. But the most important thing is controlling, how those properties look. Because to me, they're integral for the shape of our town in the future.
Regarding the different sectors for the 3, 4, 6-story buildings, is there a limit as to how many can go up? I mean, whether it's due to infrastructure or just, we only need this many because of the future population growth, or is it sort of open season? Like, if the land is here and the people want to build them, okay, we'll take as many as we can get.
Yeah, I don't think there's a cap there, but of course there's some planning checks and balances and stuff we can do, and of course everything's always subject to council approval. But I think, the most important thing though that I think that we get out of this is that our previous official plan was not restrictive enough, right? Like that was when it was open game, right? So now at this point, we can at least control the heights within those sectors. And then if you look at it, really, it's the high school property, it's KPS, but other than that, like there's not a lot of other open land unless you're tearing down homes and stuff, right? So, I guess, geography as a whole could restrict it just based on what's available there. But to answer your question, within the official plan, there's no cap as far as how many.
Okay.
So that kind of leads into this past October 23rd council meeting on Monday and 183 Main. So I know it's the zombie subject that keeps coming up and popping up, but you know, it's between the medical center at 200 and 183. There's been a lot of controversy, a lot of discussion, a lot of frustration, a lot of misunderstanding, and you know, litigation and whatnot that have gone on. And here we are again with the next chapter in 183. So. On Monday's council meeting, there was an application for zoning bylaw amendment. And if you'll bear with me, Dennis, I'm just going to breeze through it just so we've got the facts and, you know, we're speaking to the preciseness. So the recommended action that the zoning bylaw amendment application be approved to amend the zoning for subject parcels at 183 Main Street East in the town of Kingsville from residential zone 1 urban R1.1 and residential zone 4 urban exception 6 R4.1 to 6 to an amended site specific residential zone 4 urban exception 6 R4 1 to 6 to permit a 42 unit multiple dwelling building. 2, the relocation of the existing historic single detached dwelling with a 5.5 meter or 18 foot front setback and side yard of 2.2 meters or 7.22 feet. 3, neighborhood commercial uses in the existing single detached dwelling. 4, parking for the permitted uses in the interior east side yard and the rear yard. 5, increase permitted maximum height from 12.2 meters, which is 40 feet, to 19.5 meters, 64 feet. 6, increase the minimum rear yard setback from 7.5 meters, 24.5 feet to 19.5 meters, 64 feet. And by bylaw 64/2003 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 1, 2014, the comprehensive zoning bylaw of the town of Kingsville will be taken, having read 3 times finally passed, be authorized to sign the same, that alterations to the Esther Jasperson Campbell House, a designated property under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, be approved under Part 33 of the Ontario Heritage Act, subject to the following conditions. 1, that a heritage conservation plan and appropriate securities be included in any future site plan agreement to ensure the long-term protection of the Esther Jasperson Campbell House. And 2, that the relocation and stabilization of the Esther Jasperson Campbell House be completed prior to any construction of the 42-unit multiple dwelling building. That's a lot. So...
You speak planning and clerk. Congratulations.
Legalese, right? So to paraphrase, summarize, there was an existing site plan approval, and now there were some changes that were requested by the developer. So can you take us through what was approved, Dennis?
Yeah, so there was a 3-story condo building was approved there previously. And though that was, the project that was brought to the OLT, and that was the one that where the town lost it. So then the approval was granted to the developer for the 3-story, but lost the ability to fight the designation. So the home was saved, and it was designated as a heritage home, so it couldn't be torn down for it. But again, the condo building was approved.
So now the developer, who we've had on the show, Christian Lefebvre, and Broader Development Suburban, they wanted to change the scope of the building. So they want to go now to a 6-story, 42-unit dwelling and move the house closer to Main Street in order to facilitate this revamped building structure. And then with that, some assurances to rehab, revitalize, preserve the heritage home. So this was not contrary, in addition to what was already approved, and it highly contested at council. There was some fireworks. So we had we had some councillors come speak out in approval of this change, and others in opposition. The big issue, Dennis, or the whatnot, is we've already been down this road with regards to contesting development on this site. Why now, or what now has changed with regards to the town's position, or council's position, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things is, there was some concerns with moving the home, and I think there's a couple councilors, including myself, that expressed that. Obviously a professional company, they had done it before, and then, they had confidence in them moving it. But, one of the items I expressed is, it doesn't matter what's in the bank, if they give us 200,000, 300, 500, whatever, right? The saga that went through to save this home, right? And what this community went through to save this home. Now, the possibility if something were to happen to that home, to me is, the council would wear that, right? And, I know the Heritage Committee, they gave their approval, right? They believed in it. But, at the end of the day is, to me, again, if something happens to that home, like this is something that council would wear. So that was one of the concerns. I know there was another concern. I think it was like 1.07 acres was what the development was going to be put on, right? Which is pretty tight. Like that's a tight spot for 6-story. So, I think, that also factored into it. And, kind of my deal, my speech at the end is, what I talked about is, I think it's pretty clear where I voted as far as growth and development and you name it, right? Like it's, our town has grown. We've got to have a plan, a strong plan and a smart plan of, where what's going to go. But again, we got a plan. I think it's by early 2030s, we're going to grow by 25%, right? And so to me, it's we have to factor that into it.
So
but the other half of
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So the other half of it is, to me, what this community went through like that, what happened previously, ripped this community in half. It created a negative narrative within our community, which still a little bit exists today, right? It divided the council, it separated the town from the residents, you name it. And this isn't about a small number of people opposing the development. Like, to me, this is the community as a whole. And, my viewpoint is, I get that it checked the planning boxes. I get that it checked a couple of the heritage boxes. But I think council is also in charge of the community, right? And what's best for the community and the community moving forward. So to me, is to open that back up and open that wound back up again and potentially risk some things that we could risk. To me, is it wasn't worth it. To me, there's more value in us preserving our community and not going down that path than anything that we may spend fighting OLT.
One might argue then that if this is taken back to OLT and the town doesn't get a favorable decision, that wound is opened up anyway. And if the developer is well within their rights to do what they've asked, it's going to be a tough sell for the town. So I guess you make a very strong case as to why you voted, why you did. I guess my question in a way would be, why didn't you vote the other way? As to kind of to shut it down and say, you know what, we've dealt with this. We need to move on. There's nothing we can do to stop this.
Well, to me, it's, I don't believe there's nothing we can do, right? Okay. Like, to me, I don't believe that, if it goes to OLT, I don't believe we have a 0% chance. I believe we do have a chance. I believe, I also believe that if this goes to OLT, which it has before previously, right? And having some conversations, again, I'm not going to dictate how I think they're thinking, but another project coming forward on the same thing to me at OLT is, I can't imagine that's going to look favorable on them, right? I think it's a pretty large development for such a small space, right? I think that is something that's in our favor. I think moving a heritage home and potentially damaging it and losing it because of it, I think, to me, I think that's things we can argue. These are more things we can argue now than we could have previously.
So part of the recent news is the town of Kingsville legal counsel, Susan Hirota, is leaving the town of Kingsville. So we've had previous discussions with John Norton and I believe yourself that this was one of the benefits that we had in town, that we've got, in employed municipal council that can help represent us for that. With the news and notification that she's moving on, that puts us now at a situation where we may need to retain outside legal counsel and now incur some costs. are these some of the things that the council is weighing into with regards to this decision? Is what are all the ancillary costs and ancillary risks that we're taking when we want to go back to OLT in a circumstance like this?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. One thing I can say too, though, is that, with us not having in-house, lawyers, like, there was our director as well as our junior lawyer, right? Like now their salaries we're not paying as well, right? So, that's another thing we got to factor is this isn't above and beyond, the salaries. And I think too is, John, our CAO, is a lawyer, right? Like he's been a solicitor in Chatham-Kent. So it's not like we're leading blind here, right? So I think, again, we have some monetary stuff on our side. We have our CEO who is a lawyer. I think some things were learned previously with it. But, at the end of the day is, to me, and the reason I went this way is I talked about community partners. And, you hear me say this a lot. And, at the end of the day is, we know the environment we live in with the province and with our developers and, OLT and, Bill 23 and all these items, right? Like we know the element that we're living in. But to me is, as council is sometimes, we got to shape and we got to have conversations with the people who want to develop in our town and just let them know that things will be better and easier for them if they're a good community partner. And we have great community partners in our town and we've worked with them. And we're currently working with them with doing some stuff, right? But if you're not a good community partner, to me, at the end of the day, is there's tremendous value in that. Because I know for a developer to come into town and want to do what they want to do and build what they want to do without factoring in our community aspect, to me is, that's a tough thing. And sometimes it's, you still got to know that the council make decisions about as far as what's best with the community, not worrying about what the potential monetary aspect could be. Some things are worth more than that.
I don't know if there's going to be a question at the end of this. This may just be more a comment than anything else. But I guess I'll start with the fact that I fully admire and respect the fact that, this wasn't just a vote because a bunch of people were saying, hey, Dennis, vote this way. Please vote this way. Dennis, do it. This was, you're backing it up. You've given your reasons for doing it. Because at the end of the day, and I don't want to sound like a negative Nelly here, but if the town doesn't win this, there's four of you, there's going to be really taking some heat from that end of things too. So I have to sit here and praise your, I don't want to say confidence or bravado, conviction. But certainly your thank you, Dave. Your conviction in this. So, one way or another, you're going to have people upset, but you're also going to have people who are going to say, okay, you know what? I don't agree with the decision, but here's a guy who is stepping up and backing up his decision rather than just saying, okay, I like that. Sure. Let's do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I appreciate it, Steve, but to me, it's, the end of the day is, the last thing that we want is a narrative of our community, because this is the environment we have, is that developers can do whatever they want, right? That's what people feel, right? They can come in, they can develop, and they can do whatever they want. And to me, it's, that's a bad position for council to be in, right? And that's a bad position and situation for councils to make decisions in, right? Because we get it. And if you look at the decisions we've made previously, I think we've approved almost anything that's come across, right?
Well, speaking of that, Dennis, on the adjacent property to the east of 183 Main, there was a 6-story building that was approved on that parcel of property. What's the difference between the two determinations? Is it just lot size, as you mentioned?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call it discrimination, but a couple things is, one is, that came about, prior to Main Street decision, right? So, that was one thing, because when us, at the end of the day is, I know we were set on the 4 stories, and the reason they were able to sneak this through is because the application was in before, right? So that's why it came to council. But really, the end of the day is, that it was something that was a part of, if we're shaping it, 6-story apartment. Again, as you look in terms of location and geography where it's at, right? It is off Main Street, which is actually one of the recommendations from the Main Street Development Committee, right? It was approved prior to Main Street direction from council. it was just one of those things. It looks weird, and it's the way it ended, the way it happened. But at the end of the day, yeah.
So with that as well too, and again, I hate to beat a dead horse. We're losing other resources at the municipal staff, and we're losing our planner as well. George is moving on again. He's got opportunities or leaving the town of Kingsville as well, and he's been that planner that's kind of settled things for the last year or so. And
yep.
And what was planning's recommendation with regards to the 183 reapplication?
So the recommendation for planning was to approve it, right? But I think our deputy mayor asked a pretty good question. Is if this came in afterwards, after the official plan amendments, right, which was the Main Street, density and heights that we approved, what would his recommendation be? And it wouldn't have been to approve it. So there's this time gap from when this was approved to when the application came in, right, was why it had to be recommended from the administration. Because at the end of the day, it checked most of the boxes, most of the planning boxes. So a good planner, professional planner, in good conscience, they have to go with the recommendation to approve.
And these are some of the factors. Again, if this gets to go back to OLT, right? These are the things that the town will have to face in order to defend our stance or council's rejection for this approval or this change, I should say. So my concern is, we'll now have new legal counsel potentially if we replace Susan in her position. Hopefully, we'll have a planner come on board and fill that void with these new sets of parameters. What other developments do we have that are still to be decided with regards to heights or buildings? Because there was that stay of development on Main Street North, adjacent to the town of Kingsville, on the existing parcel of land by
Main Street North.
Sorry, yeah, the north side of Main Street.
Okay, sorry, I
apologize.
You confused me. No, that's okay. I just
beside the high school.
Sorry, thank you. Okay, because I'm trying to. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, so as of now, that was the last one that would not be compliant with the official plan amendments we're looking to make.
Okay. So everything,
so that
everything going forward is now as a result of everything that's been, after post the Main Street Development Committee's suggestions that council modified and approved.
Yeah, for sure, and we're still in the appeal process. This developer had appealed the amendments we made as a whole for all of Main Street. So, that was one thing that was filed, prior to the council meeting. So we knew that going into it, that, they were going to challenge everything and all the work that we did across the town for all heights. Right. So, to me, that's, it is what it is. But, I don't know, man. If I can be dead honest with you and real with you, to me, at the end of the day, is the reason that I made the decision I made is because I thought it was what's best for the community and how us moving forward. And sometimes you got to put your foot in the sand and you got to stand the fight. And if you lose that fight, to me, is sometimes you gain more and you get more, and you can't put a monetary value on it. Because at the end of the day, if we go there and if we win, great. And if we go there and we lose, we're going to wear it. No doubt we're going to wear it.
Wow.
But at the end of the day is, I think there's something to be said with us fighting for what we thought was right and fighting for what we think our community needs and fighting for good community partners who develop within our community.
Was there any monetary risk that was communicated to council prior to this decision? Did council suggest that if we don't approve this, that we're at risk of now further litigation at a certain cost? Was that discussed?
No, I mean, not in particular, not any particular cost, but, the end of the day too is, if with us not having our, in-house counsel now is, there's some money there too, right, that can be allocated towards whatever, bringing in, outside counsel, you name it. So we went through, we talked about if it goes to OLT and you name it, and, some details I can't share, but, the end of the day, council made their decision based off of, what we talked about, right? So, and I think that's got to say something.
Understood. However, we want to talk about money and preservation.
Yep.
All the facilities review that was held a few months ago, and the costs in order to repair those facilities and bring them up to standards, or build new facilities, or sell, or whatnot. Another hot button issue. You guys haven't had it easy, this council, so far. So, you
can add 3 storm events to that too, buddy.
Yeah, right. Throw ELK like water towers empty. So, I understand it's never easy, and it's never situations that you can forecast or whatnot. I'm hopeful that there can be a low cost mutual resolution as a taxpayer, because the last thing as a taxpayer I want to see is the town frivolously throwing away money at something that already once we'd thrown approximately $60,000 at fighting and lost, and not taking that lesson learned and continually trying to fight a battle that isn't winnable. So you've explained, Dennis, 100% your situation, whatnot. Another, segueing slightly from that topic, Steve, you got anything more to add? Because
no more questions for Dennis.
No more questions. Yeah, you rest your case. So, Dennis, another thing that kind of came down the pipeline was signage and lighting bylaw changes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to paraphrase, because again, I don't have that in front of my face here at the moment. But as my understanding is that at 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., lit signage or lit display boards at businesses are to be turned off. Is that a good summation?
Yeah, like commercial signage, like not street lights, not parking lot lights, not security lights. Specifically commercial signage.
Okay, so commercial being the key.
Correct.
Okay, so that's the understanding, or the misunderstanding. So there were some businesses that received some bylaw infractions, as it's new and people aren't aware of what the applicability is. But I think that's been the frustration, as I've spoke to a few business owners in the town, and they were presented with bylaw infractions. With little to no information from the town with regards to compliancy, as explained to them. Where I want to ask the question is, does the town hall fall under that rule or regulation?
Yeah, so these are all, questions. Actually, we're having a meeting here coming soon, because, we've been hearing feedback across the board, right? So it's, and I can say one thing is, they didn't receive an infraction, and, any letters that went out was a notice of warning. So there wasn't actually any infractions that have been gone. So anyone who had a sign that wouldn't be compliant to the bylaw, it was just kind of a notice of letting them know what's going on. So of course, since then, I've been fielding questions and, questions of, my business is still open later beyond that.
Yeah.
This is, an item security, you name it. Right. So I think the mentality is, this isn't the end all be all. Like, we're having some conversations. Is there, modifications and stuff we can make? To be honest with you, there's, even some Christmas stuff we got to factor into it. Yep. Right. So, yep. I mean, I think it's, the goal and really the premise of this was, for us to take a step and do our part as far as, light pollution, right? Obviously the biggest factor of it is the greenhouses, which, last time I checked, everybody's complying on the Kingsville side, but, the next step and beyond for us to do, take steps as far as, our environmental part and our footprint is to eliminate some of these signs. So that was something council agreed to. We had a lighting group, I think it was maybe a couple years, like it was probably a year before I came on. So, just kind of back and forth as far as different bylaws that existed within Ontario. I can tell you for us, again, this was another one where I think we found a pretty good compromise in it. Cause there's other bylaws that pertain, into residential, like full on cutoff, right? Which, I don't think council was interested in going down that path. So, I can tell you that, we're having conversations as far as if there's some opportunities within this. And, I look forward to that too when we talk about it.
Isn't the fantasy lights usually on all night? Are we going to be done with the fancy lights at 11 and fire it up again at 7?
Sorry, I have a hard time hearing you.
Sorry?
Hello?
Oh, hey, no, there's the fantasy of lights usually runs all night, doesn't it?
Yeah, right. So technically with this, it's also a nuisance bylaw as well, right? So if there's, a light that's shining into, that's more on the complaint-driven aspect of it. But, if somebody calls in a complaint on, the fantasy of lights, like we got to go check it out, right? So again, there's definitely some opportunities that we have here that, we definitely got to look at.
Right. And going back to my comment, the municipal offices on Division Road have a lit sign. So, right. And, that would have to be turned off as well. So,
you got to lead the way, right?
Correct. And, I go to work pretty early in the morning and I see it on, prior to 7 a.m. So,
I like it.
Right. In my humble opinion, it's a drop in a bucket for a far larger problem being adjacent to a major metropolitan area like Detroit. But again, I'm not a scientist. I don't know light studies. I don't know what the effect of turning off our lights has on the environment. I'll leave that to the experts. But from the layperson, I think it's quite extreme, very extreme, especially when we're talking about, the handful of businesses that it affects and as you pointed out, some security and safety risks and or just the ability to conduct business late at night.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, if I'm a business owner and if I run a pizza joint that's usually open till 2 and I turn my light off at 11 and all of a sudden I'm losing half my business between 11 and 2 because my light's out.
Right.
Is there going to be compensation from the town on that end?
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. So those are, again, for sure. Like in those, I've had that conversation and, we've, with those business owners. And to me, I get it. I'm a business owner myself, right? And I think, if I could speak for the town here, the last thing we would ever want is there to be a detriment to a business, for a business to lose sale, for, us creating a bylaw, to help on the environmental side, right? It doesn't make sense. Yeah. So, again, we're going to have conversations with it. I hope we can have some changes to it. But, another thing to remember too is that for this is it's going to be revisited after a year. So, we're going to kind of see how things transpired throughout the year and get some feedback and have some conversations. And, a year from, I don't even know when that was passed, a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago.
Something like that.
We're going to look at it and have that conversation. So again, that was one of those things that was important for this council to be able to revisit within a timely manner, just to see. And if it was something we tried and went over well and we got great feedback, that's one. But if it was a mess and, whatever, then, that's something else. So, I got to give, our council a little bit of credit here because it is controversial, right? It isn't something you see every day.
The dog agrees.
But yeah. I'll make my wife so. But, this council's trying to make some strides on the environmental side. So it's, it is what it is. And that's not always the most popular decision.
Well, the darkest time of the year is coming, so I think you might be revisiting this one sooner than a year.
Pretty soon, yeah.
But that's just
based on the emails I'm getting, probably.
Yeah. Well, Dennis, again, it's not been an easy term so far. You guys have had to, the council and yourself have had to face some pretty big issues and handle some pretty big things. Again, we appreciate you coming on the show to discuss these topics whenever they arise. Of course, we're going to be watching this one pretty closely as it seems to be one of the hottest button topics in town. So, good luck with the pursuit, and we'll be watching on the sidelines.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Have a good
Thanks,
night.
Dennis.
Right, take care.
All right. Goodbye.
So I stand by what I said. I fully admire the fact, his conviction that he backed it up. Now, of the 4 people that voted against the proposal.
So, if I may, that's Councillor Gaffin, Councillor Jarvis Shawsey, Deputy Mayor DeYoung, and Mayor Rogers.
Right. So 2 of them were not part of the previous decision.
Correct.
So even though the 3 that voted in favor
was Councillor Patterson, Councillor Lowry, and Councillor Neufeld.
2 of whom were part of the previous decision.
Correct.
Have that insight. And I know they provided insight from the previous decision. So I can understand, I can almost sympathize in a way why two of them voted as they did. Now, after the previous decision, I did speak with a member of council and asked this person, why? Why did you vote this way when it really looked like the odds were stacked against you? And the response basically was, I'm here to represent the people, and the majority of people I spoke to were against this. I admire that. I fully admire that. At the same time, when you do it again, are you representing the people whose tax-paying money you blew the first time? Or are you just listening to the same people again? And like, I'm just, it's a rhetorical question, but I do have an issue with the two people that voted again. And I will come on here and I will, if the town gets the decision, if the town wins this case, I will be like, you know what? Kudos to you guys. I didn't believe in it. I didn't think you would win, but kudos to you. But man, if they don't, and those two that voted again the same way, I'm going to have a real hard time sort of backing them as a member of council. Because to me, it's irresponsible spending.
Well, and that's why I asked the question about, was there any discussion prior to the decision about risk? If this does go back to OLT, what is the monetary allocation that we are risking in order to fight this? That we're taxpayers as much as we are citizens. We're taxpayers. This is money that we pay to provide for things that we consider necessities and contributions to our life.
Right.
Not for frivolous lawsuits that we've already got prior art that shows that the case isn't winnable in that certain respect because of laws that are outside of the community.
And it's hard for me to, in a way, to sit here and say this because with Councillor Gaff and Deputy Mayor DeYoung, there are two people I've known a long time and I have a lot of respect for. And Kim came on here last episode and did a great job with Mayor Bondi.
Yep.
And it's nothing against them personally, but it's a huge question of their decision in this matter. Again, part of me really hopes the town wins this, so that you know what, I can say, you know what, thank you, good job. You really stood by your convictions and you backed it up and you won. Well done. I just worry that if they don't, and to Dennis's comment about the divisiveness. Yeah, you win. I think the divide is certainly less. I think those that like myself right now believe it's the wrong decision will turn around and say, yeah, okay, you know what, I can handle it, I can accept it. Whereas if they lose, the people who are going to be more vociferous and loud and annoyed.
Right. It's an unwinnable battle. To that effect, right? Because everything, I wish they had had that risk assessment done. I wish they had, because if that was the case where the numbers were put in front of council by stating, if you decide to deny this approval, X amount of monies are what we can be on the hook for based upon what the award was at the OLT last time, because I'm sure the developer and I'm sure we'll have him on the show again. Like, this is just this issue just keeps going, but I'm sure that they're going to come at it with full of force again. So
yeah, I don't.
And it's over
exhausting just discussing.
It's over a house. So, here's a question that I just thought of and I should have asked Dennis. Why are we concerned about that house if within the bylaw approvals of what's been written, it's the obligation of the developer to facilitate the move and reshoring of it? Why do we care any more about that? Because if it's not met, then he's held liable. They're held liable. I'm sorry. I shouldn't individualize Christian. It's the company. right? Like, why are we concerned with what that quote unquote house? Yeah, if something happens to the house, fine. We can point the finger at, the developer did whatever it was that happened to the house or not. And then the house is great and it's rebuilt.
But like any house, it could burn down.
It could burn down. Exactly.
It could get hit by a tornado.
I was just going to say, we had straight line winds and it took out houses.
There's just, and again, Dennis's morals are strong and I get it. But it's a house. The other thing, well, I guess there's a few things now. But to the financial point, I mean, if the town loses, I'd much rather see the costs come out of certain council members' salaries than come out of the town coffers. But that's just me being a dink about it.
Yeah, you can't.
I'm just being
again.
I'm being silly on that. But
I know you're being silly, but they're elected to do a job, and that's the good thing. That's the great thing about council is that they're different and they have differences of opinion, and sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong, and it shouldn't be personally penalizing people.
Right. Okay, fine.
So
I guess I'm just from the money standpoint. Yes. Like I don't want them like tarred and feathered or anything like that. Oh God, no. No, and I will never. I'm not going to say anything bad about them personally. It's the decision. I just don't like the decision.
And that's usually what happens on controversial subjects. It's polarizing to the point where you're gonna have people that are hard on one side or hard on the other side, or some that are in the middle and really don't care. Others that don't care, right? Like,
sure.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't care. I don't care. The property was for sale for years. Nobody bought it. As soon as there was the threat of anything on that property, then it became the hottest issue in town. And as a result, it so far has cost the town about $60,000 of taxpayer money to fight a battle they couldn't win. And now we're, at risk of doing it again. That's where I'm frustrated. That's my stance. And I'm just me.
Anyway, so I'm glad you brought up the light issue. I won't say too much more, but that's tough.
That's a drop in a bucket when we're next to 3 or 4 million people in the city of Detroit. We have factories. There's an major international airport that has lights that, you throw in Cleveland and Toledo because we're only, a few 100 kilometers away from Cleveland, right? Like, I get it. You want to be good global citizens. Okay, then are we going to start looking at all the diesel trucks and lawnmowers and equipment that the town uses and making sure that those are efficient as possible? No, they're not. But those are far more polluting than lights in front of McDonald's.
Or idling or anything like that. No municipal vehicles in drive-thrus. Make sure you park, shut off your engine, go in.
And in some cases, that's more polluting, though. That's the problem.
Right.
So I understand that there are certain things that we want to do to be environmentally conscious, right? Don't litter, put out more garbage cans, don't pollute the water. Those are fundamental things that have direct correlated results towards, environmental benefit. Light pollution is...
And again, no, but the town made great strides years ago when they changed all the streetlights so that they shine downwards.
Correct.
But again, if I'm a business owner operating in the town of Kingsville and I operate my business beyond 11 or I open before 7 or I'm open 24 hours, again, there's one gas station as far as I know within the town limits that is open 24 hours.
Yes.
So from 11 to 7, you drive by, you might not know they're open. You might not think they're open.
It'd be lights out.
So, not right. So it'll hurt their business, but then you're panicking. If you're down to fumes, let's say you're on a long journey, you're down to fumes, it's 1:30, you're thinking, no, there's nowhere open, right? It's detrimental in business. Anyway, since I'm on a roll, one more short rant.
Yeah.
So every year, and it's mailed out, and every home gets one. Every single home gets one. The town of Kingsville provides a fantastic calendar to every single resident.
In fact, they're still available at Town Hall.
Oh, yeah, right. And if you don't get one, for some reason you don't get one, yes, just go to the Town Hall and pick one up. But anyway, they're fantastic for a lot of ways. Obviously, the dates and everything like that. What they have on there is they tell you exactly when the garbage pickup days are. They tell you when the recycle days are. They tell you when the recycle days are moved because of holidays. But you know what else is on there? Yard waste pickups.
Yep.
Yard waste pickups generally are every 2 weeks. But if it's a holiday Monday, they don't come that week because obviously they cannot staff it. So it's delayed a week. But it tells you this in the calendar so that people do not need to leave their yard waste out by the side of the road for 2 weeks so it can rot and it can smell and it can start to blow everywhere or whatever it does. So please, people, if you're one of those people, just use the calendar. Take a look. Go online. Do something. Just don't leave it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm done.
I learned that lesson. Like I put recycling out on a non-recycling day and it blew all over my yard. And it just so happened like the wind blew into my yard and I got all my recycling plus a couple other people down the street. It's like, oh, I bet you it's not recycling day today. And sure enough, it wasn't. So yeah. And anytime that there was any other additions to the schedule, they've done the best they could. They used to put it in the paper.
Yep.
When that was a thing. Like,
but it's not like it's a big calendar. No. It'll fit in a drawer. It'll fit in a little cupboard at the side next to the dishes.
Mine's hanging in a cupboard. I got it in there.
Goes on the fridge really nice.
Reference it. Gary, you got one too, yeah.
On the fridge.
And there's a lot of hard-working people that deliver them, that work hard to deliver them. So,
Steve.
Put it to use.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. No, it's a great reminder, and make sure that, garbage goes out on garbage day because that's my end of the gripe is like, there's foxes in our neighborhood. I saw a fox the other day at 5:30 in the morning.
Talk about my wife.
No, can't say anything.
No, anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, so there's wildlife that's in the neighborhoods, raccoons, foxes, possums, et cetera, and they'll eat food waste, garbage, and whatnot, and then spread it around. Please just be a little bit more cognizant of when garbage day actually occurs, so we don't have more of that unwelcomed vermin come into the neighborhood. Why am I?
PSA night.
PS night. Well, that was a big night. Lots of things.
I'm warm now.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting aggravated. This 183 story, like, we thought we were done reporting on it, right? Like we thought it was put to bed.
We said that
right?
several, right?
Like everybody was happy with, hey, the house isn't getting torn down. Yeah, developer gets to build a building. Everything's okay. Developer, as far as I understand, makes changes that are within their capability to do, and I'm sure that they've done their research, and given the circumstances that happened around the first thing, I'm willing to bet that they did their homework and made sure that the new proposal was within whatever the allocation was of that property. So here we go again, folks. Not that we want to change this into That Development Podcast, Kingsville Development Podcast, but hey, it's
183 tattooed on our sleeves.
Oh boy. Yeah, I believe it was in the town council meeting on Monday. Councillor Neufeld said something to the effect, I'll paraphrase, that he'll remember 183 Main till the day he dies, kind of thing, because it's just been such an ongoing
and it's not easy, and I've calmed down, and again, it's not easy for those that made the decision they made to pursue or to deny, knowing full well that this could have a negative outcome. So good for them for doing it. I don't agree with it. I hope they're right in the end, but we'll see how it plays.
And again, my stance is I wish they would have known what was at risk monetarily before they made a decision. Because again, we did a Freedom of Information request and we found, what was it, 58,000, 56,000, let's call it 60 just to be
Kevin's
fun.
Doing so.
Kevin found it. We've already wasted that. And if everything checked those boxes, as Mayor Rogers said about, hey, planning says yes, legal says yes.
He almost made the case for them.
Here we go. Hey.
I'd like to mention that apparently I saw a Facebook post that that big tree in the cemetery behind the Anglican Church at the end of Prince Albert was taken down. Yeah. That tree was on the Registry of Trees, Ontario Trees.
Was it really?
I don't know. I believe it was well over 100 years old, and it was one of the tallest trees. I think it was a black oak.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Well,
because of the big storm.
Yeah, that big storm. Well, it was right in the swath, right? Hey, there it is. Another episode, That Kingsville Podcast. So for all those that are still here, thanks. Kevin will be back next episode. But again, Fantasy of Lights Parade, Santa Claus Parade, November 18th, starting at 5. Come see us. We'll be up on the balcony yapping at you guys down below.
Don't hurt us.
Yeah, go to kingsville.ca if you want to enter the parade or volunteer for the parade. They're looking for things of that nature. So thanks, Gary, for production. All right, we'll see you all next time.